What if conspiracy theorists were right? What if the CEO of a pharmaceutical megacorporation really was an alien sent to exterminate Earth? And what if uncovering that truth only made everything far worse? Welcome back to Depthline, where every story has depth. Yorgos Lanthimos delivers Bugonia, a dark, nihilistic black comedy that interrogates corporate malfeasance, conspiracy culture, and humanity's ecological reckoning. An English-language remake of the 2003 South Korean cult film Save the Green Planet, Bugonia premiered at the 82nd Venice International Film Festival and immediately polarized critics. Emma Stone plays Michelle Fuller, the immaculate CEO of Auxolith, and Jesse Plemons is Teddy Goetz, a sweaty, obsessive beekeeper convinced Michelle is not human, but an extraterrestrial instrument of annihilation. The film opens with parallel sequences that immediately establish the chasm between two worlds. On one side, we see Teddy Goetz training in his worn-down, cluttered house that reeks of desperation and unwashed clothes. He's performing bizarre exercises, muttering to himself, preparing for something big. His cousin Don, played by first-time actor Aidan Delbis in a remarkably vulnerable performance, follows his every instruction with childlike devotion. On the other side, we see Michelle Fuller exercising in her sterile, modernist home that screams wealth and power. Everything is clean, precise, controlled. The contrast couldn't be starker between the grimy world of the poor and the antiseptic realm of the rich. His paranoia has roots in genuine tragedy. Years earlier, Teddy's mother Sandy, played by Alicia Silverstone in flashback sequences, participated in an Auxolith clinical trial for an experimental opioid withdrawal treatment. The drug trial went catastrophically wrong, leaving Sandy in a persistent vegetative state. She's been in a long-term care facility ever since, trapped in her own body while Teddy watches helplessly. This personal devastation transformed his grief into conspiracy, his anger into a mission. He began listening to fringe podcasts, diving into online rabbit holes, conducting his own experiments, until he convinced himself that Michelle Fuller isn't human at all, but an Andromedan alien disguised as a corporate executive. Convinced action is necessary. Teddy recruits Dawn and executes a violent, efficient abduction of Michelle. She resists with the fury of someone who has always controlled outcomes, but Teddy's mania overpowers her. They take her to Teddy's basement and convert it into a jaundiced interrogation chamber. Corkboards dense with documents and photos, B-frames and jars of suspicious fluids stacked like ritual objects, surveillance stills pinned up as evidence. The space is both amateur and ritualized, equal parts fanaticism and grief. Lanthimos frames the confinement to destabilize sympathy. Teddy is shot from low angles, looming and threatening, while Michelle, who shaves her head for the role, is often filmed from above, looking diminished yet, in moments, oddly sanctified. The director borrows martyr imagery to disorient moral sympathies. Why use the iconography of persecution on a Big Pharma CEO? The question remains unresolved. The film is structured into 3 acts, one for each day leading up to the lunar eclipse. A countdown card appears at the start of each act, showing Earth becoming progressively flatter, a visual metaphor for the collapsing worldview that both Teddy and the audience will experience. Each day escalates in violence, psychological manipulation, and revelations that chip away at our certainty about who the real monster is. Day 1 begins with Teddy trying to extract a confession through psychological warfare. He shows Michelle evidence of her company's crimes, internal documents about suppressed drug trials, testimonies from victims like his mother, environmental reports about chemical pollution. He rants about corporate capitalism's stranglehold on society, about techno-enslavement, about how the ruling class poisons the world while accumulating obscene wealth. Michelle deflects with the cold rationality of someone trained in crisis management. She admits nothing, reveals nothing, treating Teddy like an irrational child throwing a tantrum. But as the interrogation continues, something starts shifting. Michelle begins to see the cracks in Teddy's facade, the vulnerability beneath the aggression. She realizes that Dawn is the weak link, the impressionable cousin who follows orders without questioning them. She starts working on Don psychologically, planting seeds of doubt about whether Teddy really knows what he's doing. Don is neurodivergent, displaying behaviors consistent with autism spectrum disorder, and Lanthimos cast a non-professional actor for the role specifically to bring authenticity to these moments. Don's increasing internal conflict becomes one of the film's most heartbreaking elements. The violence escalates on day 2. Teddy employs crude torture methods, convinced that physical pain will force Michelle to drop her human disguise. But Michelle endures with a stoicism that's either superhuman or genuinely alien. The audience finds itself in an impossible position, unable to root for either character. Teddy's methods are monstrous, but Michelle's corporate background is equally repellent. Are we watching a righteous crusader fighting evil, or a mentally ill man torturing an innocent woman? Lanthimos keeps us suspended in this ambiguity deliberately, refusing to offer easy answers. Intercut flashbacks and corporate scenes show the systemic roots of harm. We watch Sandy sign consent forms she cannot pass, a nurse make a shrugging note, and executives debating market timing while downplaying safety. Auxolith's culture emerges as structural: regulatory loopholes, internal opacity, and a technocratic language that reduces suffering to metrics. Michelle is shown as both product and architect of a ruthless system, not as a cartoon villain. By day 3, Michelle's subtle manipulations fracture Don. His neurodivergent behaviors and dependence make him vulnerable. In a devastating instant, Don grabs the shotgun kept in the basement and kills himself in front of Michelle. Lanthimos lingers long on that image, forcing the audience to witness the accumulation of micro-decisions, grief, manipulation, radicalization that produce irreparable harm. Don's suicide shatters Teddy. Michelle seizes the opening. She appears distraught, then claims she is Andromedan and that she possesses a cure for Sandy hidden in an antifreeze bottle in her car. Desperate and unmoored, Teddy retrieves the bottle and rushes to the long-term care facility. Staff try to intervene. He overwhelms them and injects the fluid into Sandy's IV, believing he is saving her. Instead, Sandy convulses and dies within minutes. Teddy realizes, in gut-sick horror, that he has been manipulated into murder. Back in the basement, Michelle drops any pretense. She is truly an alien scientist, and Auxolith's apparent mishaps were deliberate experiments. The Andromedans have been cataloging human behavior, pollution, corporate malfeasance, bureaucracy, cruelty, to judge whether humanity merits continuation. Sandy's trial and the environmental damage are data points. The verdict is damning. The lunar eclipse is not a deadline for negotiation, but the trigger for extermination. The Andromedans activate a planetary mechanism during the eclipse that emits a lethal beam. Lanthimos presents the annihilation with clinical composure: long lenses, steady frames, and an absence of pyrotechnic spectacle. Across cities and countrysides, people slump as nervous systems fail. Aircraft fall from the sky, and ambient noise collapses into an uncanny silence. The massacre reads less like cinematic chaos and more like an administrative purge, precise, final, and horrific. The final scenes are eerily beautiful. Michelle walks out of the basement, stepping over Teddy's corpse without a second glance. She walks through streets filled with bodies, cars crashed into buildings, planes fallen from the sky. The world is silent except for the wind and the distant sound of animals beginning to emerge from hiding. Birds sing, insects buzz. The earth is empty of humans but teeming with life. Michelle stands on a hill, overlooking a city full of corpses and smiles. The camera pulls back to reveal other figures like her, emerging from various locations, aliens who have been living disguised as humans, waiting for this moment. They begin the process of cataloging what humanity left behind, preparing the planet for whatever species the Andromedans deem worthy of inheriting it. The title Bugonia now makes complete sense. It's an ancient Greek word meaning progeny from an ox, referring to the myth that bees could spontaneously generate from the carcass of a sacrificed ox. Humanity is the ox, sacrificed without mercy, and from its corpse, something new will emerge. The film ends with a shot of Teddy's abandoned beehives, And inside them, the bees are returning. The colony is rebuilding. Life goes on, just not human life. Bugonia is Yorgos Lanthimos, at his most uncompromising and nihilistic. This isn't a film that offers hope or redemption. It's a brutal condemnation of human nature, disguised as a science fiction thriller. Jesse Plemons delivers a performance of raw,